Ruchem Aboyim B'Shem Irgun Shir Torah. We'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rabbi Yakov Zev Smith Shlita on the Indian of benefiting from Basar B'Cholov. I'd like to begin to the Cooperman and Teitelbaum, Shpachas is sponsoring today's shir. The Nishmas of Chaim Tzvi ben Rabbi Yakov Loza Zatzal Yortzeit Chavtasi at Nishmos Tzur Basar Chaim to have the great exclusive sponsoring a shir called Irgun Shir Torah 718-851-8651.
A while ago, someone asked me a very interesting question. He was walking by one of these street vendors. They were selling meat, and he was convinced that it was Basar B'Chalav. In other words, a cheeseburger or the like. He wanted to know, is it asa to smell it because he's having hana from Basar B'Chalav? He's not going to eat it, of course, but merely smelling it might be nisa deraisa. Then we had a shaila. We were bacha, had a weekend off Shabbos, so he decided to make cholent for the family, and he made a very good cholent with a lot of meat. One slight problem, he used the milchik pot. So it had a very unique flavor, milk flavor cholent. The question is, what do you do with the cholent? What do you do with the pot? The third shaila was very unique. Someone asked me, he has a pet, and he bought pet food, and he realized after he bought it that it really contained Basar B'Chalav, so he can't use it. So he wanted to return it to the store for a refund. Is that a form of hana from Basar B'Chalav? He's reselling an item that's asa b'hana. So obviously we saw a common denominator of questions regarding Basar B'Chalav, not eating Basar B'Chalav or waiting 6 hours like that we've discussed in the past, but this new sugya of hana from Basar B'Chalav. And as we'll see, this is a gishmaka sugya with many yisoids for other inyanim. And as a derech ways is try to get one yisoid, I think we have to focus on one point. There's no doubt about it that Basar B'Chalav is unique. It's unique for many reasons. As we'll see, say in the chaymer of it and say the halachas of it. The Gemara, in fact, in Pesachim Daf Mem Dalar and Beis says Basar B'Chalav chidushu. It's a unique chiddush. Why? So let's see. First of all, the mere fact that in 3 places in the Torah, Parshas Mishpatim, Kisisa, and Re'eh, the Torah repeats the exact words, like Savashal Gedi B'Chalei Vimai. So the fact that 3 times it repeats it shows a great emphasis. But it's interesting, in Parshas Re'eh, the Torah prefaces, Ki Am Kodesh Ato L'Hashem Aleikecha, like Savashal Gedi B'Chalei Vimai. Zakti Issa V'Heta in Lamed Aleph Chaf. You have to be very careful regarding Basar B'Chalav, because the Torah seemed to connect Basar B'Chalav and being an Am Kadosh. That's sort of a prerequisite. That's sort of a Tanai. You want to be a holy nation, you have to be careful in Basar B'Chalav, which is probably the explanation why we find unparalleled halachos, chumros regarding Basar B'Chalav. Not to eat it together, even milk after meat, 6 hours, not to eat milk and fish on the same table. I mean, the fact that there's so many chumras, because that's really what guarantees us to be the Am Kadosh, the Am Nivchar. But the question still remains, why do you have to have the same pasuk 3 times? Zok the Gemara in Chul Daf Kuf Tezvav Amid Beis, that the Torah is really relaying 3 independent isurim. You're not allowed to eat Basar B'Chalav, you're not allowed to have enough in Basar B'Chalav, and you're not allowed to even cook Basar B'Chalav even if you're not going to eat it. Lamashal, I'll give you a good example. Imagine you work in a non-Jewish company, and you're sitting by your lunch, you have your own lunch, and a Goyish co-worker says, oh, do me a favor, I put my sandwich into the toaster oven, I forgot to put on the button. Would you just hit the button so I'll make my lunch? So if he has a cheeseburger, and by putting on the toaster oven, you're cooking the cheese onto the burger, you just were oivan and issa deraisa. You're not eating it, you're not having hana, but that's bishul Basar B'Chalav. Simple. If someone goes to culinary school and he's learning how to cook, and one of the exercises involves cooking Basar B'Chalav, even though he's not going to eat it, and he's not having hana, rather he is probably, but certainly als the bishul, that's an issa, Basar B'Chalav d'oraisa. That's certainly one of the unique features of Basar B'Chalav, 3 independent isurei Torah. What's also unique, and that's really what the Gemara in Pesachim is highlighting, Basar b'cholav, each one is mutter. The basar is glad kosher. Okay, we'll soon see by treifa meat, it might not be so awesome. But the meat is 100% kosher. The milk is cholav Yisrael. But it's the combination that makes the problem. Now let me share with you a beautiful, beautiful insight. I think you'll enjoy it. I'll ask you a shayla, but you don't have to be a paisik, you don't have to be a mathematician. But you just have to understand the beauty of this question. A person has 20 ounces of hot milk. And by mistake, an ounce of meat fell into the milk. What's the halacha? 20 ounces of milk, 1 ounce of meat. So you go to the Rav and he says, I'm sorry, that's treif, it's not bottle. Throw it out, but the person has bad aim, and he throws it into a pot of 100 ounces of milk. Okay? Now you have 121 ounces in this pot, 120 is milk, and 1 ounce is meat. Is it mutter? The answer is that's 100% asa. Why? Because you're making a mistake. It's not 120 ounces of milk and 1 ounce of meat. 20 ounces of milk and meat became basar b'cholav, chaticha, nasa, nevela. It's not like milk that needs a Yeshua. It's basar b'cholav. It's not meat or milk, it's basar b'cholav. So you have 21 ounces of issa. 21 into 100 is not shishim, even if you're not a mathematician. Okay, that's us. That's the concept of chaticha, nasa, nevela in Simon Tzadik Beis, Sif Gimel. Okay, let me add a little more gishmak. Okay, you have 20 ounces of soup, and an ounce of chaylev is treifa, fell into the 20 ounces of soup. 20 kosher, 1 treif. So you go to the Rav, he says, I'm sorry, it's treif, there's no shishim, throw it out. Again, you don't have good aim. You threw it into a pot of 100 ounces of soup. So now you have 120 ounces of soup and 1 ounce of chaylev. What's the halacha with the pot? Zok the Mechab and Siman Tzadik Beis, Siv Dalid, the soup is now mutter. Why is it different, 21 and the 100 just like before? Pasha the chilik. In the previous case, 21 ounces became nevela. It's asa, basar b'cholav. 21 into 100 is asa. Here, it's 20 ounces of kasha and 1 ounce of chaylev. It's still 1 ounce of chaylev. It didn't grow, it didn't expand, and you weren't mechaven to be mevatel the issa. You threw it in by mistake. So now you have 120 ounces of kosher soup and 1 ounce of chaylev. No, that's shishim. What's the chilik? Because regular tarfis, regular issa is not nasa nevela. The chaylev is chaylev and the soup is soup. But basar b'cholav chaticha nasa nevela. Now, Grada the Ramah there says even b'shar isurim like chaylev chaticha nasa nevela midrabanan. Fine. But the yisoid is basar b'cholav is unique. It becomes issa. 2 heterim gemurim become issa. Let me add just a little more gishmak and then we'll go more halacha l'maisa. Let's say you have a pot, 20 ounces of parva soup, and somehow an ounce of meat fell into the parva soup. Now 20 and 1 is not a good combination. You didn't even ask a shayla. You decide to throw it out. No, nothing wrong with it. You throw it out. Again, you have bad aim, and it goes into 100 ounces of parva soup vaita. What's the status of the soup? 120 ounces of parva soup and 1 ounce of meat. Zok the Ramah in Tzadik Daled Vav, even I say that is no shayla, that it's 121 ounces of heta. Because it's not basar b'cholav, it's only basar. Basar is not issa. What's the yisoid? Basar is okay, cholav is okay. The combination becomes basar b'cholav. So this is the yisoid that we need. The issa of basar b'cholav is 2 heterim. We'll soon see why I stress that combine to form a new issa called basar b'cholav. But there's one very important precondition. Why taka, if there's an issa bishul, achila, and hana, Why 3 times the Torah used the word Leisavashel? Zok the Rashba, quoted by the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch, the beginning of Pei Zayin. The only Issa Basar B'chalav is if it's cooked together, the milk and the meat. Derech Bishel. In other words, someone takes a piece of meat and puts a piece of cheese on top of it. That's not Basar B'chalav Deraisa. The only Issa is when you cook the meat and the milk. And what's the Hezbollah? For us, it's very Gishmak. The meat is okay. The cheese is okay. What makes this Chaticha Nasin Avela? When it becomes one. How does it become one? When you cook it. So the 3 Isurim of Basar B'chalav are based on the Aleph, Leisavashel, Derech, Bishel. Now, of course, I'll say this once for the rest of the year, even if it's not cooked together, there's an Issa D'Rabbanan to eat Basar B'chalav. You're not allowed to eat chalav after basar. Most people wait 6 hours. You're not allowed to have meat. You have a meat sandwich on the table and your friend's eating cheese. I mean, there's so many halachas, so many precautions and chumras, al-gabi chumras. That's the uniqueness of basar b'chalav. But midaraisa, the chefza basar b'chalav is only bishul of basar together with chalav. And what's unique about this, the Rambam in Sefer Mitzvahs, Kuf Pei Vav, says there's an Issa D'Raisa of cooking basar v'chalav. In the next halacha, Kuf Pei Zayin, he says the Issa of eating basar v'chalav. And then that's it. He does not speak about the Issa of Hana from basar v'chalav. He leaves it out. So the Rambam in Kuf Pei Zayin asks on himself, you're wondering, why don't I enumerate the Issa of Hana? So the Rambam said, listen, I'm going to tell you a big chiddush, but it's pashut. Because Hana and Achila are one of the same. The greatest Hana is eating. So if I said you're not allowed to eat it, and of course it implies you're not allowed to have Hana. Because the Gemara says, he quotes the Gemara in Pesachim, whenever it says don't eat, it includes Hana also. So we see that there's 3 Yisurei Torah, but Hana and Achila are similar. We'll soon see Hana without Achila is also Asa, because there are 3 separate Yisurim. So now you're wondering, Fakert. So if you don't need both, why didn't it say Hana? And who needs Achila? Achila is a form of Hana. So the Rambam himself pavorns that question, and he says, no. Because a person that eats, Shaloi Kederech Achila, he eats a food that's burnt and he doesn't enjoy it, B'shari Surim, there's no Issa. Because it's not an Eichel. It's not Derech Achila. But regarding Basar B'chalav, a food, even if it's burnt and he doesn't enjoy it, that's the uniqueness of Basar B'chalav. There's an Issa Achila. Even food that he does not enjoy, that's the Issa of Achila. So there could be Achila without any Hana. And the Rambam, Machalas Asuras, Yud Beis Yud, quotes this. So these are basically the 3 Isurei Torah. I should point out an obvious question. If a cheeseburger, Lamashal, that's not cooked, there's no Issa D'Raisa to have Hana or to make it. There's an Issa D'Rabbanan to eat it. So the question is, since there's an Issa D'Rabbanan to eat basar v'chalav that's not cooked, so why is there an Issa D'Rabbanan to have Hana? It's really one Issa. And the truth is, it's not such a bad question, because the Yam Shloim and Chulin, Perek Ches, Siman Kuf, Taka holds that since there's an Issa D'Rabbanan on basar v'chalav that's not cooked, there's also an Issa Hana. But the Ramah in the beginning of Pei Zayin says, no. The Issa D'Rabbanan is only Achila. If it's not cooked, there's no Issa Hana. And we'll soon see how Negeya that is. And the Shach and Tas says we paskin like the Ramah, not like the Marshal. But no one says a hez, but why not? So I saw the Bavei HaShulchan, and the Biyurim there says Pashit. The Torah Chas al Mammon Shal Yisrael. The Rabbanan didn't want to make an Issa D'Rabbanan on Hana. But I was thinking it could be a little more Pashit. If it's not cooked, it's not basar b'chalav. So why make Gzeres D'Rabbanan? But an Issa Achila, we have very often an Issa Achila Mid'Rabbanan. You might come to eat the Deraisa. But to say it's Asa Hana, it has to be basar b'chalav. And if it's not cooked, that's not the Chefza basar b'chalav. There's no reason to Asa b'Hana. But I think the most important point of today is that basar b'chalav is a Chiddush. It's to a term that's cooked together that becomes Issa. Now let's apply it Lamaisa. I just don't want to be magdim what the Aruch HaShulchan in the end of Siman Tzadik Dalet writes. That's negeya to every time you have a shayla, but I think especially our sugi of Basar B'Cholav. The Aruch HaShulchan was an experienced Rav in a Ir Ve'ein B'Yisrael in the Vardik, and he says, when anybody has to paskin a shayla, be careful not to be mafsid Mammon Yisrael B'Chinam, because people ask shaylas and they don't know that there's bits of information that make all the difference. They might not tell you all the information, so make sure you inquire and ask all the details. In other words, before we paskin any shayla, but especially Basar B'Cholav, you have to know all the details. And let me give you an example, and as we go on, we'll see many examples. You have to take all the factors into account. Let's start with the shayla we began with. This bacha made a nice cholent in a milachik pot. No, that sounds like Basar B'Cholav D'Oraisa. First question is, wait a minute, what type of pot did he use? Milachik pot, right? Was it used within 24 hours? Is it a ben yoimai of milachiks? So rather in that case, they made farina that morning. Okay? But you have to ask, farina, very good. Is it a milachik farina? Maybe you make it with water. There's no halakzeres akasa farina is also. Rather his mazel, they made farina with milachiks Friday morning. It was laying around, you know how it is. It ended up on the fleishik side. So now, Lamaisa, there's no doubt about it, the cholent presumably is Basar B'Cholav D'Oraisa. If there's no shishim, you have to calculate that as if the pot is full of milk. So if there's no shishim of cholent keneged the volume of the pot, that cholent is Basar B'Cholav D'Oraisa. I don't see any milk, it's just a pot. But you have to put on your Torah eyeglasses. Blios is milk. And it's noteworthy, the Chachmas Adam in the beginning of Klal Mem Vav writes, if you have a milachik pot that cooked fleishiks, that is Bishul Basar B'Cholav D'Oraisa. And Rabbi say, not only the pot is treif, and not only is the cholent treif, but you can't have enough from that cholent. You can't give it to your goyish neighbor or the goyish cleaning lady. This is a classic example of Basar B'Cholav D'Oraisa. That's asabano. Someone said, okay, well, that means I can't kasher the pot because the pot is asabano. There it says, you're right, it's asabano to use. Besides that, it's treif. But if you kasher, you're taking out the problem, so kashering is okay. Now question is, what do I do with this cholent? Expensive cholent. So, to give it for a gift is awesome. But the chiddush, the pella is, to throw it into an ocean might be awesome. What do I mean? The Issa Veheta, one of the Gedolei HaPoskim in Chaf Aleph Yud Beis, he's talking about chametz. And he quotes to Yerushalmi, you're not allowed to feed chametz on Pesach, even to an animal that's not yours. Mamash, he spells it out. Even to a kelev that you never saw in your lifetime. You never met this kelev. You can't feed him. Why? So, Pashit, the pshat is, you're having ano. You know, loimi boy, it's your own pet, you enjoy you're feeding your pet. But even if it's not your pet, a person has a certain nature, you like to feed animals. Vara, you go to the zoo, there's long lines to buy pet food. It's not your animal, but that's a human nature. Rather, Pesach, be careful before you buy pet food, that it shouldn't be chometz mamish, which usually it is. But anyhow, so Pashit, it's hana. Oh. But if you look in the Yerushalmi, and that's the way the Pri Megadim in Taf Mem Chesed Cut and Test explains it, the Yerushalmi seems to imply that since the Torah says, we say it every morning after you put on our tefillin, Ki b'choiz garatzion Hashem Mitzrayim v'lo yeyochel chametz. Lo yeyochel means chametz should not be eaten. So the Yerushalmi seems to learn you can't cause an animal should eat chametz on Pesach. And if you're going to throw chametz into the river and a fish eats it, that's lo yeyochel. So it's nothing to do with you're having hana. There's a din in chametz that's asa b'hana. You can't cause that an animal should eat it. Now, there's no issa on the animal per se to eat it, but that's the chumrah of chametz. Rabbi said there are two reasons why you can't throw chametz into the river. What's the nafkamina l'chayra? What about Basar B'Cholav? Because Basar B'Cholav is asa b'hana. So if you take Basar B'Cholav and feed it to a dog that's not yours, that you never met in your life, but you have a certain sense of hana, that's considered hana from Basar B'Cholav. But maybe that special din of lo yeyachel, even without a nazasa, that could be only by chametz. Who said it applies to basar b'chalav? So let me read to you what the Isvahet himself says in Ois Yud Gimel. L'chein noihagin lishbay chatav shel lebeis hakisei v'ikfurasei. If you have basar b'chalav, throw it into the beis hakisei. Or yashlichenu lahano dahavi kenisraf. Or throw it into the river, that's like nisraf. Why? Because then you're certain that ain't a yachal lavu lidei sheyehenem and a shum bria. Throw it into the river, no living creature is going to eat it. Ve'ein dai b'mashi as we can l'rechoiv afilu k'she'ein sham kelev. So he's sending a mixed message. You're allowed to throw it into the river, but make sure that no living creature benefits. But what about the Nahar? Aren't there fish in the Nahar? We go to Tashbech to Nahar that has dogim. So it's pliadik how the Poiskim was so careful. Some say that Isveheta means a Nahar that there's no fish. But if there are fish in that Nahar, it's awesome. Basar b'chalav is not lo yachal. Apparently we're explaining, we're comparing basar b'chalav to chametz. You can't have hana, and you can't allow any bria to have hana. Now, this is the way some of the Gedolei HaPoskim, the Taz, seems to learn like this in Sadik Dalid, Sif Katan Dalid, the Badei HaShulchan, and Sif Katan Yud certainly says this. You can throw basar b'chalav into a nahar if it will come that the fish will eat it. Now, if it disperses and disintegrates before a fish has a chance to eat it, fine. But if lemaisa a fish will eat it, that's the issa of hana from basar b'chalav. The Pischei Tshuva in Sadik Dalet Sif Katan Hey quoting a Makar Chayim makes a chilek. Chametz on Pesach says lo yachal, you can't throw it into the nahar. But who said basar b'chalav is an issa of lo yachal? So if you enjoy feeding the animals, even stray dogs, it's taka asa l'chaladeis. That's this hana. But the nafkamina would be to throw a cholent into the river where you're not enjoying it. There's not hana. Is there an issa that an animal will eat it? That's the two pshatim that we said. So if it's a question of an issa, suffix issa deraisa, one should be machmer. So as you see, even disposing of chametz, you have to make sure that no hana should be realized. So the best aids is to be careful, not to make mistakes with basar b'chalav. But we see the chumrah of disposing basar b'chalav. The next question is, what is considered bishul? Lamashal. You had a hot pot of milk and a piece of meat or fleishig cholent fell into a kli rishon that's not on the fire. So this we know from Hilchas Shabbos, it's actually a Mishnah Masechta Shabbos, kli rishon, even off the fire, is capable of cooking. So if you had a little meat fell into a hot pot of milk or vice versa, if there's no shishim, even though it's not al-gabi ha'esh, kli rishon is capable of cooking. Consider the next common case. You had a hot cup of coffee, and you mixed it with a fleishik spoon by mistake. So you say, basar b'chalav. But remember Aruch HaShulchan's advice. There are probably close to 5 reasons why this is mutter. First of all, the coffee is in a klisheni. Could it cook? Generally, a spoon is an Eine Ben Yoimai. Third heta, generally we mix a coffee with a dessert spoon. A fleishig dessert spoon probably never had a belia of fleishigs. It's a fleishig spoon, but it's a dessert spoon. And also, you have to know Pashat and Metzias. Again, if it's an Eine Ben Yoimai. If the spoon was used for chicken soup, even if it's a soup spoon, we'll soon see Basar Oif B'chalav is not an Issa Deraisa. So there's no Issa Bishul Basar B'chalav. So again, you have to know, and it probably could be Shishim also, so you have to know all the factors before we're quick to say Asa, Asa, Asa. Generally, that is an easier shayla. What is a more tricky question, you cut a roast with a milachik knife. So, l'chayra, this could be a problem. Why? So let's think. If the knife was a ben yoimai of milachiks, so then the blias from the knife go into the meat. The question is, who said it spreads to the whole meat? Maybe it only stays where you cut. So this we have a big yisoid, a big sugi I should say, but to make a long story short, if you have ducha de sakina, the pressure of cutting spreads the blias throughout the meat. So in the worst scenario, if you had a milachika knife that has blias of hot milachiks, and you cut a roast, that's a problem. If there's no shishim keneged the blade, then the roast is kula yasa. It could be basar b'chol deraisa. Very often, a decent-sized roast, there is shishim keneged the blade of the knife. You don't have to count the wooden handle; it's the blade. But Rabbi say here we have the Aruch HaShulchan's warning. Actually, he's talking about this case. He says someone asked you, they cut a roast with a milachik knife. How common is it that a milachik knife has blias of milachiks? The Aruch HaShulchan says in our times, and today it's also true, you use a milachik knife to cut cheese or butter. But how often did you cut milachiks, hot milachiks, within 24 hours? I mean, amal, you cut a pizza or chveis lasagna, but you have to make sure the knife is truly milachiks. If there's no hot blias, there's no problem whatsoever. So the point is, before you throw out something, having mesun and badin, think to see if it's takos. Now, let's say this person's a real shlamazel. It was a knife had blias of hot milachiks. There's no shishim. It's a ben yoimai. That is a problem, and you can't give the roast to your goyish neighbor. If it is basar b'chol of the arais and there's no shishim, this would be a problem. Another issue before you start throwing out the roast is, where did you cut the roast? If the roast was transferred onto a cutting board, it's already a klisheni. Who said it could affect the bishul and the klisheni? Then again, you have the fact that the roast is a dava gush. So that taka the paiskim say, the Darkei Tshuva discusses this, but basically, if you have ducha de sakina and a dava gush, that might be a problem, even a klisheni. But again, if the meat was not hot enough, then it's mutter mitzad that. So you have to know all the factors. Hot meat touched cheese. So again, our Chashulchan's advice, where's the hot meat? If it's on a klisheni, then there's no shaila. Because just the fact that it's a dava gush, but a klisheni, there's no ducha de sakina, so the affected area, of course, is asa, but the rest of the roast would be mutter. And the Darkei Tshuva and Sif Katan Tezvav says this, and he does add that if for some reason there was hot cheese and hot meat in a kli rishon, then you have problems, because then it cooks in the kli rishon. But generally that's not so shchiach. Generally the affected area that touched should be cut away, and the rest should be okay. How do you define the word bishul? So the truth is, the word bishul means cooked. Actually, boiled is probably a better translation. You cook meat in a pot. Cooked chicken soup is cooked. But the paiskim, and again, this could be a share for itself, but we have a big agenda still. Most paiskim feel it's lav dafka cooking. Baking, roasting, frying, grilling, even though it's not really bishul, but it's a valid form of preparation. So again, I can't say all paiskim agree, but the paiskim agree, that grilling, frying, baking, roasting, barbecuing are all considered bishul basar b'chol of the arais. The exception is, this is the end of Siman Tzadik Aleph, melicha or kavish, milking, salting or preserving, even though kavish can mevushal, but not regarding basar b'chol. Now, of course, it's still asur midrabanan. You can't even eat milk after meat, so kavish certainly not. But it's not considered bishul basar b'chol deraisa if it's only kavish. The interesting question is smoked milk and meat, or milk and meat that was cooked in chamei tferia, which is hot springs. So that's a suffix in the Rishalmi, because the question is, hot springs is not a derech bishul. What do you do if you have a suffix basar, issa basar b'cholav? So in Pei Zayin Vav, the Shulchan Aruch says, ha'ma'ushin ha'mavushal, ein loikin. There's no malchus. In other words, it's a suffix malchus. But the Aruch HaShulchan and Sif Chav Hey points out correctly, But if you have such a basar b'chalav, don't have enough from it. Because it's a suffix deraisa if it's basar b'chalav. Suffix hanof and basar b'chalav is a suffix deraisa l'chumra. But the point that I think we should understand is that other forms of preparation, even though it's not conventional bishul, is still us. The big question, when they started using electricity, today you could have an oven, a toaster oven that has no eish. It cooks with electric coil. Is that bishul basar b'chalav deraisa? There's no eish. It's not like barbecuing, grilling, that there's a fire at least. So again, this is a big sugya, but the Paiskim seem to agree, just like in Hilchos Shabbos, if you cook in an electrical oven, it's bishul deraisa. In basar b'chalav also, that would be basar b'chalav deraisa. Again, there's no eish, but it's something that simulates the use of eish. A fascinating question is if someone cooked basar b'chalav in a microwave oven. Microwave is not even electric. I mean, it's a different way of cooking. So I'll tell you a fascinating tshuva. Rav Moshe was asked in Chodesh of Tafshin Lamed, that's close to 48 years ago. A Lamdin asked him the following question. They just then invented the microwave. It wasn't used, but it was known. So the person asked, maybe you're allowed to cook cook Shabbos in a microwave. How could you cook them in a Shabbos in a microwave? So he was a big lamdin. He says, it's a Mishnah, it's a Lachem Shulchan Aruch, it's Mutta Ad Hayom Hazeh. You're allowed to have fresh fried eggs on Shabbos. How could you do that? You cook in the sun. Because not derech bishul. So maybe microwave also is not derech bishul. So Moshe writes back in Chele Gimel, Siman Nun Beis, the Dimyan is strained. Because cooking in the sun is not derech bishul, that's true. But microwave, the reason why it's not used today is because no one has it. But wait, one day when they'll have it, you'll see that it's derech bishul. So I don't know if that's Ruach HaKodesh or Chacham Adav Minavi, but Lamaisa today it is the number one way of preparing foods, even cooking foods. So Vivait, Rav Moshe wrote then regarding Shabbos, microwave is derech bishul. There's no reason to think that regarding basar b'chalav it's not derech bishul. In the Shvus Yitzchak, in Dini Mikrugal, in Amud Mem Dalar, he has a beautiful raya, because the only suffix in the Yishalmi is maybe the Chami Tveri is not awesome because it's not derech bishul. Why don't we say it's not awesome because there's no eish? Evidently, you don't need eish. You need bishul. So a microwave, although there is no eish in it, but it's a derech bishul, avad it's awesome. So I think it's very clear you don't need eish. The ikka is it loisavashel gedi? Is it cooked, prepared together? And I think the hezbollah, like we said, is very gishmak. This, the chiddush of basar b'chalav is you took two eterim, you made it into one when one gives taste to the other. Why should we need eish? If you have a cheeseburger that has the taste of basar b'chalav, it was prepared together. So who cares if you did it in an oven, or you did it in a microwave, or you did it in a toaster oven, whether there's an eish, or an electric coil, or microwave. If it became one, one is one. Now you'll ask, 1 second, but when it comes to chicken and milk, we say, you have to look at the Torah, loisavashel gedi lafuke chicken. So why don't we say, loisavashel lafuke microwave? Teretz is very pashut. The chefza basar b'chalav is gedi b'chalev imoy. But the chefza basar b'chalav is milk and meat that are prepared together, cooked together. Bishul is lav dafke eish, any preparation that makes it one. Someone asked me, he heard that it's advisable to have two separate garbages, one for milachix, one for fleishix. I said, why don't you have 3 for parava? But the truth is, why is this wrong? So the emes is, there is a possibility by throwing out garbage, you might be oiv on bishul basar b'chalav, but it's very, very remote. Let me explain. If someone throws cholent into the garbage and it hits cheese, so if it's not hot cholent, there's no issue whatsoever. So you're not chosh that he's going to go creep into the garbage and take out the basar b'chalav and eat it and be oiv and issa the rabbanon. That no one takes food out of the garbage. In the worst scenario, if a person has a hot cholent and he pours it directly into the garbage and it hits a piece of cheese on contact, that could be basar b'cholav. Why? The Pichadash and Peizayi and Beis, the Pimagodim and Tzadik Aleph Hey says that if you pour if you pour hot fleishiks onto cheese, even though the cheese is a klisheni, but that's iroi kli rishon, that's mevashel kedei klipa. On contact, it cooks the top part of the cheese. Not the rest of it, but at least the outer part. Okay? There's no halach, you have to cook the whole food to basar b'cholav. Even a klipa is basar b'cholav deraisa. But the question is, that's true. But how shchiach is it that you pour hot cholent into the garbage, number one, and hits a cheese on contact? I mean, otu b'shuftani askinan, that he cooks a delicious cholent, and he spills it into the garbage when it's boiling hot, that's not negayah. You want to pour off a little of the fat on the top of the cholent? No, that might be a keyechetimtza. You're pouring out the gravy from the cholent. But you have to be chaysh that it's going to hit a piece of cheese on the top. It's not enough of a chashash to require two separate garbages. So if you want to pour hot cholent into the garbage, check to see if there's cheese in the vicinity. Grada, for those that still have one sink in the kitchen, they consider it a tray for sink, there's more of a chashash to be careful. Because you have everything going on in that sink, it's treif. You might have a piece of cheese in the sink strainer, and you want to pour the hot cholent into the sink to get rid of the fat, so then the cholent could hit the cheese on contact. That might be an iri mavashal kadei klipa, but certainly it's not enough to make a need for two separate garbages. Question, listen to a beautiful, beautiful shayla. Your coworker says, I put my sandwich into the oven, I forgot to put it on, please put it on. But Rabbi, I did my homework, I know all about these laws. I happened to cook the meat before I came. The cheese, my cheese is cooked, so I know the laws. There's an exemption of ein bishul acha bishul. So just put on the microwave, toaster oven, and don't worry, it's kosher. So he's alhamdin. Well, how do you reply to him? Question number 2, he says, not only that, but I actually already grilled the cheeseburger, but I want to rewarm it. That's certain ein bishul acha bishul. So here we come to a beautiful question. Is it true, just like in Hilchas Shabbos, ein bishul acha bishul b'davar yavesh, hu adin in Hilchas basar b'cholav? So you think about it, there's a big chilik. When it comes to Shabbos, the issa is preparing food from raw to cooked. Then we say ein bishul acha bishul, once it's cooked, ein bishul acha bishul. But the issa basar b'cholav is a chiddush. The meat is perfectly mutter, the milk is perfectly mutter. It's making it into a new unit that's called basar b'cholav. So who cares that the meat was already cooked and the cheese was already cooked? By cooking it together, that's the issa. And that's why almost all the poskim say, already cooked piece of meat and cooked milk or cooked cheese, and you put it together and cook it together, is basar b'cholav deraisa. Shabbos is different. Shabbos is preparing. This is forming a new entity of basar b'cholav. But the beauty of the sugya is, the second chiddush that the guy said is correct. If the basar b'cholav was already cooked together, it became this chanan of basar b'cholav. Rewarming it is mutter. Where did I see this all? I'll tell you a beautiful Shara Ephraim, that's the Zayd of the Chacham Tzvi, in Siman Lamed Ches. There was a question that someone cooked butter in a fleishige pot ben yoimai. Cooked milk, butter, in a fleishige ben yoimai. The question is, can you use the butter? You're not going to eat it, Chalila, because it's basar b'cholav. You'll use it for lighting, for light. In those days they didn't have electricity. Use it as a candle. Can you use it on Ner Chanukah? So the bulk of the tshuva, come out the whole tshuva, the Shara Ephraim is, since it's Ner Chanukah, mitzvah b'hanis nitnu, there's no issa hana. Frag the El Yerab in Tafrei Shayin Gimel Sif Katan Aleph, what are you talking about? Mitzvah b'hanis nitnu. But there's an issa bishul. If you're lighting that basar b'cholav, you're cooking it. Bishul is also without hana. Zok the Einikel, the Yad Yehuda in Pei Zayin, in the end of Sif Katan Aleph, he defends his Zayda, the Shar Ephraim, says the Teretz is Pashit. Of course, there's an Issa of Basar, B'chalav, Ein Bishul Acha Bishul. That's true. That's if you take cooked meat and cooked milk and you cook it together. But here, the Basar B'chalav was already cooked together. It's a davalach, and Il Chashabes, Yesh Bishul Acha Bishul B'davalach. But it comes to Basar B'chalav, it became one unit. It became Basar B'chalav. That's what the Zayd of the Shar Ephraim meant. But from all this, we see two chidushim. Number one, cooked meat and cooked cheese independently. You can't cook it together. And we don't say Ein Bishul Acha Bishul, because you're making Basar B'chalav. That chiddush, you'll see in the Imrei Bina, in Basar B'chalav, Siman Gimel, the Chsam Soif, and Yeredeya, Pei Beis. All say this. Cooked meat and cooked milk you cook together is Basar B'chalav Deraisa. But it's also true, if you have Basar B'chalav that was already cooked together, it became Basar B'chalav, and now it's cold, rewarming it would be Ein Bishul Acha Bishul, even in the scenario of the Shar Ephraim, where it's a liquid, but Ein Bishul Acha Bishul by Basar B'chalav. The next Yisoid, imagine this case. Okay, I like to make a case, you'll remember it better, but imagine someone goes to culinary school, and the instructor says, he's a stickler of an anti-Semite, you have to cook meat and milk, or else you're not getting a degree. And I say it's Basar B'chalav. So I say, if he's a lam, I have four choices, I'm going to get my degree. Number one, I'm going to use venison with milk. Venison is deer meat. Or buffalo or antelope, whatever you like. Soon see why. Choice number two, I'm going to cook bacon with milk. Choice number three, I'll cook chicken with milk. And choice number four, if you want dafka beef, I'll cook beef with camel's milk. Now, the instructor by now is baffled. He doesn't know what you're talking about, so he already passed you. But Rabbi said all of this is correct. Because the Torah 3 times describes Basar B'chalav, Le'savashel Gedi B'chalev Imoy. Zok the Mishnah, and the Mechaber Pei Zayin Beis quotes this, Gedi, which is a baby goat, lav dafka. Any behema tahira, cow, goat, in milk, is awesome. That's the Issa Basar B'chalav, behema tahira, cooked in milk. But a behema tameya, bacon, versteht sich, or horse meat, cooked in milk is not Basar B'chalav Deraisa. It's not Dumya de Gedi. The Mechaber also said the Farish, Einay Noig al Basar behema tahira, B'chalav behema tahira. But if you have a bacon or horse meat in milk is not Basar B'chalav Deraisa. Let's say you have Chalav Tameya, camel's milk, in beef, is also not Basar B'chalav Deraisa, because B'chalev Imay. So therefore, we have two choices: either cook bacon in milk or beef in camel's milk. But there's more than that, because it's dafka behema tahira. A chaya is not b'chalal di'isa, and a deer, a buffalo, an antelope is considered not non-domesticated chaya, and therefore is not included in the issa basar b'chalav deraisa. What's most posh that we all know is basar chaya va'oif, says the Shulchan Aruch. If you have chicken in milk, you cook chicken on milk l'chatchila, it's not bishul basar b'chalav deraisa. Of course, you can't eat it together, or even ze'achazeh, that's an issa d'Rabbanan. But lamaisa, someone that wants to cook basar b'chalav has any of these four choices. Now, there is a big problem, because the Mechaber in Siv Dalet says, even though there's no issa deraisa basar b'chalav, but al maras ayin you have a problem. So you would have to avoid the maras ayin, but the point is, if it's not dumya dekra, there's no issa. I'll tell you a fascinating story. The Chsam Sofer in the Yeridei, the end of Siman Salidal, recounts, of the Yodana, he writes, in Frankfurt am Main, there was a tarnagolis, a chicken, that flew into a vat of cooking butter, and he writes, a gadol, a goyin echad, umahul al ma'oid, and on the bottom it says that was his Rebbe, the Afla. The Afla paskin, that butter, chicken-flavored butter, is asa ba'anoif to throw it out in the street. Someone asked him, why is it asa midaraisa? Chicken and milk is muta, midaraisa. So he said, I'm worried about the bliya of Evim and Achai for a guy. So how beautiful it is that the chiddush is you could cook chicken in milk and it's mutter midiraisa. But the bliya of a lebedika chicken is a problem, and that's the Chasam Sofer's famous tshuva. If a living animal has bliyas and he brings a raya from Haman's psak, that's the Russian of Avodah Zarah, Perik Hey, Simon Yud Aleph, about the fly falling into the wine, a beautiful golden tshuva, ayin sham. But the point is that, believe it or not, chicken in milk is not an issa deraisa. That's pashut, that's a mechaba based on a pasik, behema, not oif. But what's pashut l'chayra, when a summer comes to you, he says, I can't believe it, I cooked fleishiks in a milchik ben yoimai that I used this morning with milchik farina. Ask him, what's your fleishiks? Is it cholent? Very often Friday night it's chicken soup or chicken. So if you cook chicken in a milchik ben yoimai, there was no issa. Okay, the pot needs a tikkun because it has fleishik bliyas, but the person didn't do an aveira deraisa b'shaygik. So chicken versus meat, it makes a very big nafkamina now with sugya. Any of these questions where you cooked on, again, in behema tameya, chicken, chaya, camel's milk, all of those cases, even though we don't eat them, of course, it's mutter b'ano. You can give it away as a gift, you could sell it, there's no issa no if it's not basar b'chol of the rice. What's more negeya, for those that have pets and pet food, if the pet food is made from bacon with milk or camel's milk with beef, all those cases, no issa hano. Now, Rabbi, let me ask you a shaila, and I caution you, approach with caution, okay? Because besides being negeya, this is what the Rambam calls an akuda nifla. We have two categories. If a person cooks beef with milk, it's a deraisa, it's asa b'ano, even the bishul itself is asa. But bacon and milk, there's no issa of bishul deraisa. Okay. How about what's most common, nishtei nishteher? Let's say the halal meat that has that smell of mashal. It's not geshachten in a beef. They don't use bacon, but it's not geshachten. It's what we're going to refer to as a nevela. People call it treif, okay, but it's really a nevela. Why? It's cow. It's a behemoth Torah. It's not geshachten. What's the halacha with a piece of beef that was not geshachten? Goyish beef in the store, cooked with milk. Is there an issa bishul on that? Is there issa ano on that? L'mitzad echad, it's a behemoth Torah. The species is a cow. But then again, it's treif. We don't eat it. So this, you have to learn a Gemara. The Gemara is in Chul, Daf Kuf Yud Gimel Amid Beis. Gemara says a gewaltige chiddush. Hamavashel chaylev b'cholav. Now this is all confusing. Cholav is milk. Chaylev is meat. Is the fat, the treifa fat of a cow. Hamavashel chaylev b'cholav, right? And he ate it. He's over on the issa of chaylev, but not on basar b'cholav. This is a real basar b'cholav. Chaylev and cholav is like meat and cholav. So the Gemara says, "Ein issa chalissa." In other words, chaylev is asked before you started. So now you cooked it with milk. There's no room for another issa basar b'cholav because it's already the issa of chaylev. So of course you can't eat it. You shouldn't eat it because it's chaylev, but there's no issa basar b'cholav. Now you're probably wondering, wait a minute. I understand there's no issa chal on the chaylev part. But the milk was Chalav Yisrael. There's no issa on that. Why isn't there an issa basar b'cholav on the milk shabai? So the Chasam Sofer in the Yardei Tzadik Bey says, but the real issa, the ik issa basar b'cholav is on the meat part. But I saw the Chazon Ish in the beginning of Siman Chav Bey. He says a golden avart, which I think is pashut. He says the issa basar b'cholav is a chiddush. The meat is good, the milk is good. It's the murkav of basar b'cholav. It's the tam chadash of basar b'cholav. So once on the basar, there's no issa of basar b'chalav, because there's no basar b'chalav. It's like this milk, plain milk. You have Torah eyes, you see that pashtus. But Rabbi say, don't eat it, of course, but there's no basar b'chalav. Okay, good. And that's the way the Mechaba paskins. The Rambam says this as well. There's no issa on basar b'chalav on eating that. Now I'll ask you a question. If someone cooks chaylev and chalav, or, let's talk more tachlis, someone takes a piece of non-geschachtene cow's meat and cooks it in milk, treifa, and he cooks it with milk, is there an issa basa b'chalav deraisa on the bishul? So we'll say, why not? But it's also because of chaylev. It's also because of treifa, nevela. But there's no issa cooking chaylev, no issa cooking nevela treifas. So, and this is the beferish gemara. There's no issa bas v'chalav on eating this, but on cooking is an issa deraisa, because there's no issa on cooking al the nevela shaboy. Now, when you're making bas v'chalav, you're making a new issa, so it's an issa moisif, and that's where the Rambam paskins machal suras tes halacha vav. There's no issa achila, but bishul is awesome. Wonderful. Now, the $1 million question. You didn't cook, but you have dog food that was made by neveos and treifis that was cooked with milk. Is there an issa hana or not? So you're wondering, what's the shayla? We just spoke about that. Why is there an issa bishul on neveos and treifis with milk? Because there's no issa bishul on nevela. So there's no issa hana on nevela and treifis. The pasuk said like help tashdich, you don't have hana. So vivait is no issa on the hana of neveos or treifis or on chaylev. So there's an issa moisif to cook it and make it basta b'chalav. And that's the shita of most poskim, the Beis Hillel and Sivkot and Beis, the Shvus Yaakov and Aleph Samach, the Pri Megadim and the Besicha, the Sam Soif and Tzadik Beis, all say for pashtus, just like there's an issa of cooking chaylev and chalav. The Gemara says that there's an issa hana from chaylev and chalav because there's no issa of hana from chaylev. Comes again the Rambam, and the Rambam is not in halacha; it's in Pirush and Mishnayos, in Krisos Perik Daled Mishnah Gimel, and he makes a whole presentation. I'm going to tell you now in a kuda nefla a mafteach lenyana macherim. Remember it, because many make a mistake. He's referring to maybe the Beis Hillel and the Shvus Yaakov and the Chasam Soifa and the Pri Megadim later in history. But he says there's no issa hana from neveos chaylev and chalav. Why? Zok the Rambam, the nekuda nefla is that the issa achila and hana is one and the same. We saw that earlier. So just like regarding achila, there's no issa basta b'chalav because ain't issa chalissa. The Gemara says so too regarding hana. And a chanami bishul is a separate issa, but hana and achila one are the same. Zok Rabbi Chanan in Kaivet Sa'aris Lamed Siman Beis even more gishmak. This is a Rambam l'shitasai. The Rambam didn't count two isurim, hana and achila and bishul, because it's one. So Aibazay regarding an isachalis, it's one. And this is the Rambam's golden nekuda nifla. However, as we said, most poskim take exception. The isachila is not chal because of a technicality, it's a chal issa. But regarding hana, there is no independent issa hana on those tarfis. And that's why most poskim, the Pri Megadim, the Shvus Yaakov, the Beis Hillel, and the Chasam Soifa say we can't be saimach on the Rambam. Now the Dogel Rivava, the Noid Yehuda Afanar, it says hasaimach makam hefsid lo yafsid. But the Chasam Soifa says if you paskin like the Dogel Rivava, I step to the side. But if you ask me, he says, don't be mekel. Now, boy, sir, you have no idea how common this question is. And I'll give you two simple examples. I would imagine that pet food today, across the board, they don't use hamish shechita, even non-hamish shechita. If there's basar b'chalav, it's beef that was not geshachten. Like the Rambam, it's mutlach tchila to buy that. La'alacha, most places say there's an issa hana midaraisa. How about you walking by a halal meat and they have that smell, and assuming it's basar b'chalav that's cooked together? So the truth is, this is a different sugya, but reicha lav milsa. It's not considered an achila. But regarding chametz b'Pesach, there's an issa hana. There's an issa kolshu. So reicha, smelling, l'shem hana, is vada yasser. Shlomo Zalman has a beautiful shtickle in Alicha Shleim b'Pesach, Perik Daled Siman Yud Beis, where he says if a person intentionally smells chametz on Pesach, he's aivan issa deraisa v'anah from chametz on Pesach. because he's doing a hana, and it's a small amount, but it's not less than a kosher. But l'chayra, hu adin basar b'chalav. Even though there's no special din of kosher by basar b'chalav, but it's an issa deraisa of hana. And it makes a lot of sense, and I saw Rabbi Levi Rabinovich in the Sefer Madani HaShulchan says it beferish, he says without a makar, but I think it's pashit. Madani HaShulchan, he said this, that there's an issa of smelling intentionally basar b'chalav. Why? Because it's not worse than a regular hana. Now there's no special din of kosher, but who cares? However, when you're walking by those stands, and pardon me, it's an ekeldik smell, and no one enjoys it, and you're trying to get rid of it, so that's why you have to like a mechav. The Gemara says this is no issa in the first place. But to intentionally smell basar b'chalav would be us. The only thing is, if you want to feel a little more comfortable when you're passing one of these stances, you could realize, according to the Rambam, there's no issa smelling lechatchila, because that would be nevela b'chalav. In the worst scenario, there's no issa hana. Other hanas selling basar b'chalav, of course, is also. A person's a chef in a goyish restaurant, there's no Jewish clientele, there's no lefnei iva, but there's an issa cooking. Someone owns a nursing home, he can't serve the non-Jewish patients, the residents, basar b'chalav, that's hana. A person's a nurse, an attendant for a goyish patient, he can't make or serve the patient basar b'chalav, even a goy. Listen to the following case that could be negeya. You have a goyish maid and you trust her, she has her own toaster oven. You tell her, here's some meat, here's some cheese, make yourself lunch. So the Bialacha, in Hilchos Shabbos, of course, in Siman Shin Zayin, Siv Chaf Aleph, quotes a Prima Godim, that you can't give a guy meat and cheese and say, make yourself a lunch. If it's understood, they're going to make basar b'chalav. Because even L'gabi Shari Surim, there's an issa of Amir La'akum. So you could say, make yourself lunch, and they take what they want. That's fine. You got to have a guy eat in your house, basar b'chalav. But to give them meat and milk and say, do what you want, make what you want, is implicitly saying to cook basar b'chalav, and that's amir la'akum. The other question that we mentioned, if you mistakenly bought pet food that has basar b'chalav d'oraisa, and b'chayshish that even though it's not geshachten, is basar b'chalav d'oraisa asabana, can you return it for a full refund? So that's a very gishmaka ha'orim. Now listen to this. If you bought it by a Yiddish store that didn't know that it's basar b'chalav, so it's an emes and mekach tais. He can't sell it, you can't buy it. If it's a mekach tais, I'm not selling it back to him. It was not a mechira. So my money back is no problem of hana from basar b'chalav. But in a typical goyish store, there's a unconditional return policy. 7 days, return what you want. You know, people, they buy a gown for 7 days, they use it for the 6 days, the Sheva Brachas, they return it. Nothing wrong with it, it's a beautiful gown. But unconditional. So to return that pet food, there's nothing wrong with it. You didn't look at the ingredients. What it really is, you have to ask a lawyer, but it makes more sense that you're reselling it, what was yours. Reselling basar b'chalav could be an issa d'oraisa. You have to know. Now, I don't know how it works, these unconditional return policies. It's not a mekach tois, but if you could find a lawyer tell you it's not a problem of, it's like the mechir never was chal, it might be mutter. But more often than not, this is a real resale of your item, and that's hanaf and basar b'chalav. Let me leave you with an early Simchas Yom Tov. We have a minute before Yom Tov. Leave you something to think about. A basar b'chalav mamish our sugya regarding Shavuos. There's a famous Yerushalmi, the Shita Mukubetz, the Mecharis, the Avavam Abeis quotes it, that the reason why we eat, the Vel says why we eat milchiks on Shavuos is because the Baruch wanted to give the Torah to Klal Yisrael. The Malachim got all envious, give it to us. The Baruch said, no, you can't get a Torah, you ate basar b'chalav. Parashat Vayeir, Ram gave you basar b'chalav. So we eat basar chalav on Shavuos really to commemorate that we got the Torah because of a Zehiris in basar b'chalav. Freg the Stipel in Birchas Peretz in Parshas Vayera Memanashach. If Avram cooked the basar b'chalav and fed it to the Malachim, he was Iva, so we shouldn't get the Torah. The Teretz is Chalila Avram did not cook basar b'chalav. So he gave them meat and cheese. So they only ate meat and cheese that wasn't cooked. They weren't even basar b'chalav d'oraisa. So the Stipler, but they were Malachim. When they put it in their mouths, they burnt it with their mouths. So that's bishul. The second teretz up to Stipler, no. You don't have to say that. Itaka wasn't an Issa Deraisa. Avram wasn't Oiva. They were Oiva an Issa Derabanan. For doing an Issa Derabanan, you lose the Torah as well. That's what I saw a while ago. This week, it got us an important message how careful we have to be with every Derabanan, especially Basar B'cholav, the Am Kodesh Atam. But this week I found a gem mamish. The Malbim on that pasuk in Vayera, he won this, the lashon of the pasuk El Abaka Rotz Avram, Vayemar L'Asoisai, Ben Boka Ashe Asa. So he quotes a Yalkut Ruvaini that Avram ran after the Ben Abaka. He wanted to serve the guest, but the Ben Abaka ran away. So he created a Ben Baka with Sefer Yetzirah. That's the lashon of Vayemar L'Asoisai, very literal. He created it. And therefore, Ben Abaka Asha Asa. He made it. Mamish Haimish Gemacht. He made it. The question is, why do you have to have this nisim? Because otherwise, he cooked Basar B'cholav, and it would be awesome. But he cooked the Basar B'cholav. Says the Malbim, it's only Gedi B'chalev Imai. An animal created by Sefer Yetzirah is not a Gedi. There's no Issa Basar B'cholav. Ad Kan, the Malbim. So it bothered me to no end. So 1 second. So why were the Malachim Oiva? They weren't Oiva l'chayr. So it could be they were Oiva Nisa Derabanan of Marasayan. But a Bach in the yeshiva, I'll mention his name, bring the Gula, Yainis and firework, he told me, maybe they were Oiva al Zeskavan Lechel Basa Chazir Va'achel Tle. They didn't know that it was created by Sefer Yetzirah. So I said, you're saying so much better than you realized. Because it's not just an Issa Derabanan. You are not careful with the Torah. You thought you're doing an Issa Deraisa. That's a psul in the Malachim, and that's it. We have the Torah. Guten Tag and Aferel and Shuas to you.
Shem Irgisher, your Torah like to be Yashikach to Smith for today's share. Like to be Yashikach, the Mishpacha is Teidelbaum, Kupperman for sponsoring today's share, Lili Nishmas, Rav Chaim Tzibin, Rav Yakov Zev, Zatzal Yosef Koftasiya, Tenishmos, Tzur, Basar Chaim. Smith will say a seekum of today's share in 5 minutes. Chananya ben Akashem, Ratzak Kadosh Baruch Hu Lezakes Es Yisrael, Lefigir Hebel Am Torah Mitzvos, Shenem Alei Noi Chofetz, Zaman Sidka Yagdol Torah V'Yadeh.
Can't say just look for sure was this mit begleichen.
Ticket is a serious. Hast du das Ticket mit? Hast du
What's it called? Klein? Custom.
After the shop, it's about to get his very far down to buy mac and cheese.
You can't cook the bill. No, it's not the issue. You need the money to buy.
Yeah, bro, you don't tell much.
He said he did it, man. You drop him off by...
No, you don't tell much to buy.
Ach, schon ein bisschen was gefragt, eins im Ungeschick. Ja, ich bin Zeit, schon lange.
They will have so happy.
Ich nehme an, go,
But I can and I give the menu. So I get a circle the menu. I circle the menu. And I go. But that's
down. Is op hem gezocht, dat is goed.
Because you give them the credit card.
De einzige schaal is op een goede gevoel. Het is niet gaan, maar het is beter.
Okay. Rabbi, so one thing we sure could have Hana from is the Sikkim of Rosh Mitzvah Teresh. Just a few minutes. Mutter B'Hana. Mitzvah.
Okay, just a short summary. We learned a lot today about Hashem. We learned about this unique Issa Basar B'Chalav. It's 3 Isuri Deraisa, Bishol, Hano, and Achila. The uniqueness, the novelty is it's 2 Heterim Gemurim. The more het, the more Issa. It's kosher meat and kosher milk that combines to become a new entity called Basar B'Chalav. And basically, once you have that Basar B'Chalav that's cooked together, it's Asa B'Hano, it's Asa to eat, you can't give it away. That's the Chiddush of Chaticha Nas Nevela, which by other Yisurim is a Machlaikis, but Basar B'Chalav, that is the Issa. The only Issa is Derech Bishul, because that makes the Issa, that makes the Chefz of the Yisurim. And we saw, of course, besides the Isuri Deraisa, we have so many Zihirisin that Yidden have. We wait 6 hours, we don't eat milch on the same table, and we rinse our mouths, and all the different halachas that Yisrael Kedoshim, people have 2 separate catches and 2 separate spices, and do this and that. It's all, Ki Am Kodesh Atal Hashem Aleikecha. But the ik is, the Aruch HaShulchan's wise advice applies to every child, know the facts, but especially regarding Basar B'Chalav. For example, you cooked a cholent in a Milchik pot, you have to know, is it a ben yoimai? Is it shishim? If there's no shishim, if it is a ben yoimai of milchiks, then the challenge could be Basar B'Chalav Deraisa. You can't have anah, you can't give it to a neighbor. You can't feed it to the stray dogs. That all agree is asa. Can you throw it into a nahar that has dagam, fish in it? So that we saw there are 2 shitas. On Pesach that certainly is asa, but on Basar B'Chalav, it's also good to be machmir that that's considered hano, either throwing to the fish or lo yeyachel, but certainly you have to dispose of it that no living creature will benefit from it. A pot is asa b'hana if it's cooked Basar B'Chalav, but you're allowed to kasher it, that's not considered hana from Basar B'Chalav. A hot pot that's off the fire, milk fell into a pot of cholent off the fire, even though it's lo yagabi eish, is definitely bishul deraisa. You cut a hot roast with a milchik knife that has a ben yoimai bliya of milchiks, theoretically the meat is us if there's no shishim. If it's just a milchik knife because it cuts butter or cheese and there's no mamoshes on it, then the meat is unaffected. And of course the knife has to be cleaned properly. Hot meat touches cheese and a kli rishon, it could affect a transfer of taste, but only a kli rishon, not a kli sheni. Bishul includes roasting, frying, grilling. Now again, someone asked, Rashi Shita, is that that frying is not deraisa, but we said other paiskim are machmir. So the general consensus is to accept these as ma'aseh bishul, but kavish or malicha is definitely not Basar B'Chalav. smoking food or chamei tferi is a suffix, and one should not have enough al tzveika deraisa l'chumra. The electric cooking or microwave cooking is considered a maisa bishul l'gabi basar b'cholav. There's no need to have two separate garbages. We don't generally throw in hot fleishiks onto cheese. Someone pointed out, I should have thought of this, on Shabbos, the same shayla to pour hot cholent onto any food in the garbage. If that cooks kedei kalifa, if it's taka very hot, that might be a chumrah on Shabbos. Could be it's leinichale and all that, but Shabbos is more of an issue because any food that it hits on contact would be bishul. If lamaisa, the meat and the cheese were both cooked previously, there is still an issa of basar b'chalav to cook it together, because the issa is not preparing it from raw to cook. The issa is combining it, making it into one. If you have a cheeseburger that was already cooked together, rewarming it is ein bishul acha bishul. The only issa deraisa is behema tahira with chalav tahira. Behema tameya, bacon or horse meat, or chaya va'oif, and I mentioned buffalo. That's according to some sheet. And buffalo is considered a chaya, but these chayas or camel's milk is no issa deraisa basar b'chol. Still has to be derban al t'marasayin, of course. Pet food is often mutter because it's not behema tahira. The big machlokes is if you cook milk with a non-geschachtene piece of beef, in other words, a treifa animal, what we call treifa, which really a nevela of cow or goat that was not geschachten. The Rambam holds, of course, all hold, I should say, there's no issa basar b'cholav on that mixture. To eat it is the issa of tarfis, not basar b'cholav. All agree you can't cook the two, but the machlokes, can you have enough from basar treif with milk? The Rambam holds it's mutter b'ano, and most paiskim, that's the way paskim hold, you can't have ano. The nafkamina would be to smell such a basar b'cholav like the Rambam is certainly mutter. We said it's mutter if you're not mechavan to smell, but mechavan to smell basar b'cholav is an issa deraisa. Having ano means giving it as a gift, selling it in a nursing home. Someone said a very good mashal. If you have a customer in your business and you have to order lunch from him, so you could buy him a tray for a sandwich, but if what you're ordering has basar b'cholav, you're having enough in basar b'cholav, so you have to order a food that is not basar b'cholav, or again, tray for meat, let's say camels, let's say bacon with cheese is fine because there's no issa of hana. There is an issa mira la'akum on telling a guy to go buy basar b'cholav or go make basar b'cholav, or we said also that you can't just give him cheese and meat and say, here, make it. That's also returning an item. We said if it's a mekach tais, it's mutter. Otherwise, it's a big tzarachim. That's considered reselling basar b'cholav. The Malachim and Avram, we had an interesting question. Avram was not oiva either because it was not cooked together or because it was Sefer Yetzirah. Ari Zilber pointed out maybe another pshat as we said in the Malbim is because even though Sefer Yetzirah is not us for us, but for Malachim, they are more into that, more derech achila. But someone also pointed out in the Afghanis in Eretz Yisrael, they burn garbage cans. If there's basar b'cholav in the garbage, that might be a bishul basar b'cholav. I told him it's not necessarily true. You're allowed to burn basar b'cholav. You're supposed to burn basar b'cholav. If you burn basar b'cholav to have hana, that's also. But if you're just burning it to make chaos, there's no direct hana, hopefully that might be mutter.
No share next Sunday. We jumped it.